All right, ranking my top 25 90s hip hop albums. This is part two. Here's the top 10. If you didn't see part one, definitely check that out. Number 10, 6 Mafia Mystic Styles, a cult classic from the Memphis Legends. This album is completely different than their commercial peak, Most Known Unknown, which is really like a modern blueprint for hip hop production. DJ Paul and Juicy J were way ahead of their time with the production on this. You can definitely feel the seeds of crunk and trap, which they build on even more in future albums. But this is all about the spooky, demented, paranoid inducing sounds, a classic of the horrorcore genre, really influential to later essentials like Lil Ugly Man's Mr. Thug Isolation. 6 Mafia influenced at the time by stuff like NWA and Ghetto Boys, and you can definitely feel how this is sort of a combination of those influences. This is like the soundtrack to Pillaging a Cemetery. Very creepy, great for Halloween, classic album. Number 9, The Notorious B.I.G. Ready to Die. This was number 2 on my list for a long time. Big still in my top 5. Untouchably smooth flow, punchy bars, hard hitting beats here. This is honestly the best Rags to Riches album of all time. If there's anything Jay-Z stole from Biggie, it's that narrative. No song represents this better than the classic Juicy, which masterfully depicts the sweet escape of the inevitably ill-fated life on the street. And then songs like Warning are a great example of how even after you make it out, the paranoia never stops, the stress never stops. And there's also just few songs that are better pure rapping than Unbelievable or The What. This is an amazing album, still an all-timer. Number 8, Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, released in 96, the same year Ghostface released Iron Man. Those are the two albums that really continue on the blueprint of mafioso rap that Raekwon laid out on Only Built for Cuban Links. Some might disagree with this being ranked over Biggie. I think Jay-Z just has a little bit more dexterity as a rapper, although he's obviously heavily influenced by Biggie's flow and cadence. But this album just has a much more rich and varied production. I think Jay-Z's most underrated superpower is his beat selection. Every single beat on here pops and really stands out as something a lot different than a lot of the other East Coast rap albums from this time period. Jay-Z also provides a pretty interesting contrast to Biggie, where he always feels kind of stressed and paranoid. Ghostface and Raekwon really glorify the street life, make it very cinematic. And Jay-Z just feels like he's ready to celebrate, reap the spoils, sit on a boat with a Hawaiian shirt, smoke a cigar, pop Cristal. He always feels like he's ready to bathe in his riches. That's something that's kind of been present in all his music, even from the beginning of his career on Reasonable Doubt. Number 7, Ghostface Killah, Iron Man. Ironically, the first verse on Ghostface's debut solo album is from Raekwon, and this really does feel a bit like a continuation of some of the themes and the production style of Raekwon's classic Only Built for Cuban Links, which Ghostface featured on. That was honestly Ghostface's initial star turn. Even though he stole the show on a couple verses on 36 Chambers, the Tony Starks that we know and love really didn't reveal himself until Only Built for Cuban Links. RZA's initial run of production is definitely the stuff of legends, and he managed to slightly tailor the production for each individual rapper. And for Ghostface, it's the perfect backdrop for his stream of consciousness storytelling. It's not just his world building and his storytelling that makes him so special, it's also the emotional core, best exemplified on the song All That I Got Is You. As ruthless as he can be on a lot of these songs, hearing him talk about his brothers having muscular dystrophy, all the struggles of his childhood, it definitely reveals why there's always that layer of empathy present in all of his music. Ghostface is my favorite rapper of all time. Personally, love this album. Number 6, Outkast, Aquemini. I originally had this at 9, but I had to bump it up a little bit higher because honestly, this production is really light years ahead of a lot of the other albums on here. Very rich and vibrant, soulful, funky, experimental. There was really nothing else like this in the 90s. The ruggedness of Return of the G and Y'all Scared, the swagger of Slump, the impeccable grooves on Spodioti, the funk on West Savannah, the emotion on The Art of Storytelling, which along with Aquemini, I think that's some of the best Andre 3000 verses of all time. Big Boy is just as unique and singular as Andre, although he often doesn't get that credit. And songs like Liberation must have been at least a little bit of an influence on somebody like Kendrick Lamar. To this day, there's very few albums that have matched the artistry of Aquemini. Definitely Outkast's best, and one of the greatest Southern hip-hop albums of all time. Number 5, Mobb Deep, Hell on Earth. A lot of people would probably have the infamous You can't go wrong with either of these. Across both of those albums, Mobb Deep create the greatest ever pairing of the coldest beats ever and the coldest bars ever. On Hell on Earth, the rhymes are just as rugged, but the beats have a little bit more flashiness. I'm thinking of songs like Extortion and Man Down, and Extortion is a great example of Prodigy's flow. One of the most unique rappers to ever live. It honestly feels like it would be impossible to duplicate his flow on a lot of these songs, and Extortion, a good example of that. This is as harrowing as any horrorcore album of this era, just due to the sheer matter-of-fact delivery of both of these rappers. No glorifying, no rose-colored glasses, just telling it how it is, pure survival. And Havoc is the perfect do-it-all sidekick, providing a little bit more bounce to the raps and creating such a perfect canvas for both of these cold-blooded MCs. Mobb Deep are still the best rap duo of all time, in my opinion. Number 4, Raekwon, only built for Cuban links, the mafioso rap gold standard. In many ways, Raekwon's also the original luxury rapper. It'd be very hard to picture Griselda and Rock Marciano without the influence of Raekwon. The slang, the power and punch of his delivery, similarly off-kilter flow to somebody like Prodigy, but with a lot more burst. It feels like a boxer throwing a bunch of jabs. And the RZA production is again masterful. The drama on songs like Knowledge God and Incarcerated Scarfaces really raises the stakes of the crime-filled bars of this album and makes them feel very vivid and real. And Incarcerated Scarfaces is legit one of the greatest songs ever. This album alone, in my opinion, solidifies Raekwon's case for top 25 of all time, but it also sits on Ghostface's trophy case because his supporting role on this, his storytelling adds a lot of swagger and makes this all even more vivid. Number 3, GZA, Liquid Swords. As I've said many times, RZA's run of production at the beginning of his career across these first few Wu-Tang solo albums is astonishing. It's maybe the best peak of any producer of all time, but it really feels like he probably saved his best beats for Liquid Swords. There's at least 4 beats on here that have a claim for greatest instrumental of all time. This is the most cinematic Wu-Tang album, even more so than the Purple Tape, which plays more like a De Palma flick. Liquid Swords feels like a mystical kung fu epic filled with chess matches and spiritual undertones. Whether he's talking about money-hungry label execs or chopping up opposing MCs with a samurai sword, all the rapping here is effortless, precise. This is just a dark and spellbinding album that remains GZA's peak and possibly RZA's peak, 2 illustrious careers. Number 2, Wu-Tang Clan 36 Chambers. Wu-Tang Clan honestly feel like one of those TV shows like Freaks and Geeks that has this all-star cast that springboards the careers of a bunch of A-listers. Like, there was so much talent in Wu-Tang Clan. At least 3 top 25 rappers of all time, Raekwon, Ghost, and Method Man. You can make the argument that there's 5 in the top 50 with GZA, and if you want to put Inspector Deck in there, it's kind of hard to leave him out. Maybe the most distinctive and enigmatic talent in 90s hip-hop with ODB, arguably the greatest producer ever at his peak with RZA. Everybody in Wu-Tang Clan provides something a little bit different. Method Man was kind of the leading man. Ghostface brought all this swagger. ODB, the energy, the charisma, the unpredictability. Raekwon was like the hammer. Inspector Deck like the home run hitter. U-God didn't really do that much, but he's still good. GZA was the brains. RZA, the mastermind. I mean, it was so much talent. Unbelievable. Every song on here is like a heavyweight match between these MCs. The bars delivered with violence, incredible imagery, amazing metaphors. The whole album has a rawness and intensity. It feels like a thrash album or a hardcore album. All killer, no filler. Amazing. And number 1 on this list is Nas, Illmatic, the pinnacle of hip hop. From the second you hit play on this album, it is obvious that you are in the hands of a master. This is like watching Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, or like watching Michael Jordan in a Game 6. Nas was a true prodigy. From the first verse on New York State of Mind, it is so obvious that he was wise beyond his years. Written at the age of 16, which is so hard to believe. It's not just his writing, it's the technical ability, the production here. Even to get this list of producers at this young of an age speaks so much to Nas's talent. DJ Premier, Large Professor, Pete Rock, Q-Tip, all providing perfect production. And honestly, that's what this is. It's perfect production, it's perfect rapping. This album is perfect, not just for hip hop, for any genre of music. This is, in my opinion, the greatest album of all time and the undeniable number one for this list. All right, that's the list. I know it's very East Coast dominated. I would be doing a disservice if I tried to fill this list out regionally just to give it some type of diversity. This is what I actually listen to. These are my favorite albums of all time. Hopefully you enjoy some of these. If you haven't listened to some of these, definitely check them out. Let me know what you think. Let me know what I got right, what I got wrong, and stay tuned for more lists like this. Subscribe for more like this. Thanks for watching.